Hey everyone, I'm Jessica Black at whoa, what happened there? I'm Jessica Black at It's Justino on Twitter, and welcome to the ninth and final episode of WeShow Euro 2020. Thank you very much for joining us, and please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the WeShow Football YouTube channel. Yeah, so we're going to be pretty much reviewing the final for the Euros. We all know what happened in the game or what the result was, but we'll be kind of breaking it down, our reflections on the final, our best 11s for Euro 2020, and our players of the tournament. And to do that, I have David Gerges with me as usual. So I'm going to bring him in. Hey, David, how are you?
How, Jessica?
Oh, well, we just did this backstage, you guys. We just did this backstage. We literally went through our reflections on the final, and I kind of wish we were like recording a little bit at that point, but we'll go over it again. First of all, how are you feeling like aftermath after England losing? What does it feel like, in the country? Like, what is the temperature like, for you guys? Because being here in the US, it's just, I can only really see it online, but what does it feel like for you, across the pond?
I think ultimately, from a sporting standpoint, Italy deserved to win. They were the best team in the tournament. And after that opening 25 minutes where they began to get into the groove of things and began to, really exert themselves on England and apply the pressure and pass the ball and really control the game for me, from that moment onwards, I think Italy were the best side in the final and deserved to win. But obviously that doesn't mask the disappointment that everybody's feeling right now. This was England's first final in 55 years and the clamour for them to finally win it, and for everything that happened with Southgate, obviously at Euro 96, to be leading this team to a final. I think there was a lot of will behind this England team to win it. So it's sad that hasn't happened. And then obviously we've seen some really unsavoury scenes on social media in the direction of the three guys that missed penalties, Saka, Sancho and Rashford, something that we really don't want to see, and something that I think just reminds us really that there's still a lot to do to really unite this nation behind this England team and everything that it stands for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it just kind of takes away from the entire tournament for me, because the entire time, every single episode, we've come and like at the very beginning, I've said like, I'm so impressed. Like, I love the way the tournament has been. It just feels like a very light and fun atmosphere. Really, I feel like the most negative moment, or the most, maybe like the biggest downer, was the Christian Eriksen thing, and then throughout the tournament, it felt good. I know there's been some booing of anthems, but ultimately really enjoying the tournament. But just the way that everything kind of unfolded, it's like there's not a lot of talk about Italy and how they really came back from a goal down, deserved to win. It's mostly about how England didn't get it over the line, and then ultimately like all the racial stuff that's kind of come from it. So it's just not really the way the tournament should have ended, in my opinion. Like, I just feel like we should more be talking about Italy and, a team that a lot of people weren't really talking about, came to the forefront and won the tournament. It's a little bit of a downer, but let's just kind of rewind a little bit and talk about, what did you think about Southgate's kind of choice to start Trippier and drop Bukayo Saka? Was that kind of like a choice that you thought like, okay, this could go wrong? Did you feel like it was justified after the second minute when Luke Shaw scored off of a Trippier cross? And, how did you feel about that tactical switch? Do you think it worked, or did you kind of have some questions around it?
I think Southgate's approach really throughout the tournament has always been to look at the opposition. And, we see in club football a lot. We see it in international football a lot. Managers have their formations that they like and they stick to that. And it's plan A or nothing, really. And a lot of teams have, found difficulties with breaking sides down when plan A is not working out. And what Southgate has done and what his strength has been to look at the opposition and how England can essentially beat this team by changing it, by mixing it up. And so we've seen the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1. We've also seen the three at the back. And for this game, I think he really paid Italy the highest respect by, reverting to a back five to ensure that England could, stop those gaps, stop Italy playing through the lines. And actually, within a couple of minutes, the decision was proven right, because we saw Shaw starting the move from left wing back, getting it over, and the ball eventually finds its way over to Trippier. It's a superb cross. And if you look at the goal, he holds on to the ball for a tiny bit as Kane and Shaw, get into the box. It's a wonderful cross, and it's an even better finish from Luke Shaw. So, 2 minutes in, everything looks absolutely rosy, really, for England. They're up. Southgate's proven right again. But then sadly, we started to see Italy, get momentum, get back into the game, and obviously, score the equaliser and take it all the way.
For you, did it kind of feel like Southgate's plan was, after getting the goal, was just to kind of sit in, shut up shop, kind of just not really allow Italy to come back in, but to allow them to kind of dictate play while England just trying to sat on a 1-goal lead? Like, for me, I just felt like England needed that second or maybe even a third goal, and there were opportunities to get it. Obviously, the goals didn't come, but do you think it was maybe a mistake for Southgate to maybe go into that, just, that block and try to defend? Or did you see it differently? Maybe there's something I was missing there.
No, I think you're right. I think one of the things that England struggled with probably was that the goal came so early on, to take the lead after just 2 minutes. You can start to see just the magnitude of this occasion, the opportunity to become heroes, really, and win the Euros for the first time. So, and even Kane admitted as much afterwards, speaking on TV and saying, yeah, we did drop back a bit, and there was this reluctance really to be a bit more free and move forward. And I think that's probably where England need to improve moving forward. It's this ability to take the lead and then still attempt to control play, and they have the players to do that. I just think, sadly, a few of them were on the bench, and I think Phil, it hasn't really been spoken of much yet. It might do, but I think Phil Foden being injured was a big blow for England, because that's somebody who likes to receive the ball, who's able to keep the ball well, and from there England can push out and try and get at Italy's back line. So I think there are things to be optimistic for with this England side, but also I think this was a big chance that they've lost to finally win something.
What did you think of the incident with Jorginho, and I think it was Jack Grealish, the stamping on the leg? Do you think that deserved a red card? A lot of people think it did. I tend to think maybe not so much. What did you think about that?
I'm surprised the referee hasn't gone over to the monitor to have a look at that, because we've seen decisions like that in club football lead to a red card. I mean, his foot was quite high and it was right on Jack Grealish's knee. So it's not a pleasant tackle. Grealish has obviously done well to play on, but I'm surprised that the referee at the very least hasn't gone and had another look at that, because for me that could easily have been a red card.
Yeah, it was one of those moments that kind of stood out a little bit. I do think that the refereeing in this competition was good. It was a nice change to what we usually see in the Premier League, which most games are spoken like. The biggest moments are usually the ones where the referees are involved, and good games are ones where you don't really talk about the ref. And I think for the most part, the biggest moments in the Euros were not about the calls that were made or weren't made. So I think that they called the games quite well. But I do think this referee let a lot of things go. And as the game wore on, there were a lot more maybe incidents where he kind of could have corralled the game and got a little bit of control. Do you think that he had a good, if you had to rate the referee's performance 1 out of 10 in this game, what did you think? I thought, yeah, maybe he didn't go to the monitor for that stamp from Jorginho, but I do think he lost a little bit of control, and that took away from the fluidity of the second half, and it stopped the game from being nice to watch. It was quite stop and go kind of thing.
I'm a big fan of Bjorn Kuipers. I think he's a really good referee, probably one of UEFA's top officials. And as you said, I actually quite enjoyed the fact that he let things go. And you could see at the start of the game, and there were scenes throughout, really, where there were moments where both players went down, let's just say softly, and he was telling them to get up and carry on. And players were ultimately looking around, seeing that play was carrying on, that this ref wasn't going to buy into this, and allowed the game to flow. So I agree with you. I think it was great that the game flowed, but I think in that incident, you do need the referee to have another look. And And I think possibly VAR should have at the very least encouraged him to do so.
Before we move on to our 11s, I just want to touch on, I guess, the most I guess we'll talk about them a little bit more. I'm sure they'll come up, during our players of the tournament. But Bonucci and Chiellini, like, how do they stay this good at the ages that they're at? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, some of the things that Chiellini was doing, the blocks that he was making, his ability to recover. Bonucci, who scored the equalizer. I mean, these two guys, how David, how are they still so good? Like,
I mean,
explain.
I'm reminded of something that Mourinho said, that Bonucci and Chiellini could go to Harvard and teach a course on how to defend. And he's absolutely spot on. If somebody's going to know about how to defend, then it's absolutely Jose Mourinho. And they were superb for Italy at the back. And Bonucci, as we can see there from that picture, got the equalizer. Yeah, they're just two wonderful defenders. And really, for me, probably the last of that kind of, those big names that we can associate with Italy over the last 10 to 20 years, the likes of Nesta, Cannavaro, Maldini, these two, of course. So yeah, two wonderful defenders. And I think England found it very hard.
They really did. I was very impressed by them, to be honest. I don't watch a lot of them like normally in club or anything like that, but they were definitely impressive. And yeah, I was watching Chiellini and I was like, wow, this guy. And like, I think what also I like about Chiellini in particular is the head games. He's into the mind games as well. I kind of like that. I think he picked up Jordi Alba right before they did those penalty kicks in the last round. I just thought that was so awesome. So yeah, let's move on to our 11s, or our best 11s for the tournament. We'll let Tom pull that up real quick. And we're going to go with David's first, because I think I looked at yours and decided to choose something different.
Okay.
Oh no, we're actually going to go with, go with David's first, Tom.
I wonder how many players we have alike.
Well, I tried to pick different ones because I didn't want mine to look just like yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to go through your 11?
Yeah, I mean, Donnarumma was awarded the player of the tournament, which I wasn't so sure about. But I mean, that for me, that position there was a toss-up between him, Kasper Schmeichel, who I thought was superb for Denmark, and Jordan Pickford, who's had an excellent tournament for England, as have the entire English back line, to be fair. So Donnarumma just sneaks it for me. Obviously, when a goalkeeper makes the saves in a shootout to win the tournament, it's hard to look past him there. Three of the back four are England's defenders, and ultimately England got to the final because of how structured that defence was, how organised, how ruthless they were in conceding very, very little chances to opposition players. They've only conceded 2 goals in the entire tournament, which is some feat, really. So I thought Walker and Shaw again yesterday were excellent, as was Harry Maguire. So those three are there, and I've gone for Bonucci over Chiellini, just because he played the entire tournament for Italy. If you think Chiellini got that injury and missed a couple of games. So that's why Bonucci is there. Pedri, for me, was my player of the tournament. I thought he was absolutely incredible for Spain. Someone so young to play that way. And again, I think Italy really, really struggled to play against him. And I would have loved for Southgate to have played someone in that mould against Italy. Mason Mount is a similar sort of player, but I think he came in and out of the game. I would have loved for Foden to play yesterday, but Pedri's in there. Jorginho, who I thought was superb for Italy throughout, and Pogba, who we saw a different side to. The totally unrecognisable for me from the player that plays for Man United week in, week out. And probably there's going to be a lot of clamour now for him to, continue in that vein when he returns to Old Trafford. And then up front, Chiesa and Sterling on the flanks, both scored goals through this tournament, both impressed for me and really led the lines for England and Italy. And Patrick Schick, I went for him as my, out-and-out centre-forward. I just thought all his goals were excellently taken, and the goal against Scotland from, the halfway line, for me, was just a phenomenal strike. So that's my 11.
Yeah, that's a good 11. I pretty much agree with everything that you said. I mean, what can you say? Like Pedri, best young player, probably you could also sneak him in just the best player in the tournament in general. He's somebody that, I mean, people talk about all the time because, he plays for Barcelona, so young, but at the same time, like when you see it, in front of your eyes, you're like, wow, this kid is like very, very good. Chiesa, I thought he was Italy's biggest threat, in the final. He's quite direct, and that scares defenders to death. Like when you're direct and you run straight at people, he was so good. He's so fresh. I liked watching him too. Pogba is an interesting one because obviously France has been out for a minute, but he did stand out because there's obviously a lot of divisiveness around, is this player world class? Does he show up enough for his club team? But for France, there's no doubt that he's one of their most important players, and his passing range is just, he's basically like a quarterback in the middle of the, in the football pitch. I thought he was excellent. So I can't really disagree with that, but we're going to pull up my 11 now because I had to pick something different. So, and I have reasons. I promise I have reasons. So I picked Donnarumma for the exact same reason. I do think that player of the tournament is a little like, but I get why they gave it to him. And ultimately, he was good in both penalty shootouts that I saw him in. I thought he was quite good. Also very young, and it's hard to kind of take the reins from somebody like Buffon, so I like that. I like that in him. So Spinazzola, I put him in there. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say with Donnarumma as well, he's obviously a bigger goalkeeper than Iker Casillas. But when you think about someone like Casillas, who broke into that Real Madrid team and played a Champions League final at 19, Donnarumma reminds me a lot of that, a goalkeeper that's come in very, very young and has only got better. And for a good 6 to 7 years, I think Iker Casillas was safely the best goalkeeper in world football. And there's no reason why Donnarumma can't go on to be that. We're starting to see Manuel Neuer come to the end of his career at Bayern. Donnarumma's just about to join PSG as well. And I just think the thing that he has on top of that is his frame. He's such a big goalkeeper. And when you think of, particularly penalty shootouts, that must be very daunting to face somebody who is, comfortably over 6'4", 6'5". And his reach is just incredible. And as you said, 2 penalty shootouts where you feel really sorry for those coming up against him.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And just so young, and that's impressive just to be so young and to be able to perform at that level. I just think, like, what was I doing when I was 19? Like, not this, you know what I mean? So I put Spinazzola at left back. I could have chosen Luke Shaw. I do think Luke Shaw was the best left back in the tournament. But at the same time, Spinazzola, when you watched Emerson play in the final, you thought, yeah, they needed Spinazzola there. I think that was a weakness that England was trying to exploit, but didn't really have as much success as they probably wanted to. Obviously, I think England was able to exploit it for the first goal. Trippier finding that space where Emerson was vacated and just nowhere to be found. But Spinazzola, I think, was a really big miss, and he was somebody that really kind of shone. A lot of people didn't know anything about him, obviously, because I think that there's like this maybe a misconception about Serie A, like it's not a good league or whatever. But I think after what Italy has done in this tournament, maybe people will start to watch, that league a little bit more. I think they made a good account of themselves. And I think I'll tune into some AS Roma games, to see what they got going on. But he's also injured,
we've got to spare a sort for the Jose Mourinho, the new Roma coach, who's obviously lost his left back now for a few months. He's not going to be pleased with that. But yeah, as you say, Spinazzola was excellent. Just a shame that he missed the semi-final and the final, because I think he would have offered Italy another outlet, really, in those 2 games. Not that they needed it.
100%. So I chose Maguire because, he's somebody that I feel like has the narrative around him is not great, but when you actually watch him play, he's nothing like what you would imagine, because he doesn't pass the eye test in terms of he's not silky. He's a little bit on the clunkier side. But what he's able to do on the ball, he is a ball-playing center back. He actually really is. But he's also quite good in the air. He scored a goal. Like, his penalty was amazing. That penalty that he took was perfect. It was
Knocked the
absolutely
camera
perfect.
out as well, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Top bins, everything. And, I was really impressed with him, his leadership, his ability to come back from an injury, be influential in the team. I thought he calmed Stones down in maybe periods where Stones looked a little bit shaky. So Maguire to me was quite impressive. I put Chiellini here. I could have easily put Bonucci, but Chiellini in the final, I just thought there's just no way this guy is human. He's just not human. This is crazy. Like, this guy is so good. And really, for the wind up before that penalty shootout, I'm sorry, that was just like the best thing that I've seen in a long time. Like, that was amazing.
And for me,
Dumfries. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say with Chiellini, you're right. And for me, two things that really stood out in that final was the block on Sterling in the box, which I just thought was so important for obvious reasons. And then towards the end, when he dragged Saka down, and you just really saw somebody where defending is his life.
Yeah.
And at no point is he going to just allow somebody to run past him. He actually physically dragged Saka to the ground to prevent him from, at that point, Italy are on the ropes. So you can just see that it just encompasses everything about his defending.
Yes, plays with a smile on his face as well. Like, there was times where they caught him on the camera, like, smile on his face. He just loves it, and you don't really find that often. Like, people that love the art of defending. A lot of defenders now are practically attackers, but he is literally a defender, and he really impressed me. And he probably shouldn't have impressed me so much because obviously he's a legend of the game, but just watching him was really a joy to watch. So. I picked Dumfries. I know Netherlands have been out of the tournament for a while, but I just think, in the group stages in particular, Dumfries made a really good account of himself, a great attacking fullback. There's not really much to say. I mean, fullbacks don't usually score goals, do they? They're usually more assists and stuff like that. But he scores goals, and he worked really hard. And it's a shame that the Netherlands couldn't get a little bit further in this tournament. But I think out of maybe him and Wijnaldum, maybe in that team, they could hold their head up high and say, like, we gave it our 110%, even though ultimately I think it was quite disappointing for the Netherlands. I picked Forsberg because I think he's the top scoring midfielder in the tournament and with 4 goals. Again,
4 goals, yeah.
Yeah, Sweden didn't really get that far either, but I thought Forsberg, somebody who at RB Leipzig is kind of a periphery player now. He's not really getting as much playing time. Nagelsmann really wasn't choosing him. I thought he played well in this tournament. He kept Sweden alive, even though they didn't really go that far in the tournament. So I chose him mostly to be different, but also because I think something needs to be said. I mean, he did score quite a bit of goals. Like, he's right up there with Harry Kane and, those guys and Lukaku. I picked Granit Xhaka, could have picked Jorginho, but at the same time, I think Xhaka kind of changed the narrative around him just a little bit. I think, maybe seeing him in another jersey that's not an Arsenal jersey, you could kind of be a little bit more, clear-minded when you watch him. And I thought he was quite good, especially against France. I thought he had an excellent game. And I think Switzerland really missed him because he had gotten that yellow card and was unable to play in the next round. He is a leader. He has a great pass on him. He's dependable. He does have positional awareness. He's aware of his shortcomings, and he makes sure that he positions himself in ways that he doesn't get beat. And he had a lot of fight, and I liked seeing that, and I liked seeing the narrative kind of change around him, which I'm sure it will. If his transfer to Roma goes through, I'm sure people will be able to see him in a different light. But I thought he had a good tournament as well.
I think it's nice I just think it's nice when we have players that we just, see in one light, and then that is completely transformed, when they go and play for their national sides or vice versa, really. And yeah, Xhaka is something that I think was a lot like what I saw in Paul Pogba, and there's this freedom that comes playing for his country. He still has the same expectations as he does when he's playing for Arsenal, that experience to be dominant on the ball, to, dictate play, all the things that Arteta expects from him at Arsenal and things that we've seen from time to time. But the consistency of his performances for Switzerland, doing the exact same things, was just very, very impressive. And I think he was a big loss to them when he picked up that yellow card and missed the game.
I could say more about Pedri, but I think we've spoken at length about him, but I did add him in there as well. Sterling, I mean, the guy really just pushed England through, I think, those group stages and at the beginning of the knockout rounds. Like another one had kind of like a divisive narrative around him where some people were like, he's a great player. You know, why wouldn't he be in the side? And then there's the other half that are like, well, he didn't have a great season for Manchester City. Why is he in the team? You have this player and this player. A lot of people pushing for Grealish. But I think he justified his selection 10 times over in this tournament. I really enjoyed watching him play. I thought he was quite smart. He knows what he's good at. He knows that defenders do not want to be playing against him. He's direct when he needs to be, comes short when he needs to. His build-up play was really nice. He worked really hard. And I like watching players go through adversity and come out the other side looking different and people feeling differently about the player. And I think he had that about him too in this tournament. Chiesa, I already said, very direct, very dangerous. You know, nothing really more to say about him. I mean, I would not want to be a defender watching Chiesa run toward me. And then Ronaldo, I chose him because still in a tournament where Portugal was quite poor and went out a long time ago, still the top scorer in the tournament. You know, so that just shows.
With one assist, which is why they gave it to him over Patrick Schick, which I just find very, very upsetting for Patrick Schick. Probably along with the rest of his family, but I just think that was, I've never heard of that before. But yeah, no, Ronaldo was superb again and just really showed his experience for Portugal and otherwise, yeah, forgettable campaign.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about the other strikers, you know, Lukaku in particular and Harry Kane, I think had issues in their tournament, like that you can kind of look at. I think Kane grew into it, and had he scored yesterday or, you know, in the final, I think I probably would have chosen him. Because again, I like to see players get through adversity, but still, it just wasn't quite enough. Lukaku scored a lot in the group stages, but then when it got into the knockout rounds, he missed big chances. So I think I'm just choosing Ronaldo, but obviously it's probably Schick. Like, let's be real. Like, I think his goals were really, really good. So yeah, you know, that's pretty much my 11. So there's people in the comments saying that I have Arsenal bias because of Xhaka. You obviously don't know me if you think this is Arsenal bias. But
yeah, I'm only seeing one Arsenal player in that team, so much for bias.
Well, I couldn't choose. I couldn't choose Saka because I wanted to, but he wasn't like I couldn't choose him, so it's fine. But yeah, you guys can let us know in the comment section what you think, and we're gonna have Tom go ahead and pull up the community poll for player of the tournament. So Tom, if you want to go ahead and pull that up. And the choices were Chiesa, Raheem Sterling, Patrick Schick, Donnarumma, and others. People commented for that. But it looks like Donnarumma won, which is...
I'm surprised by that.
I'm surprised by that as well. Like, I get it.
I wonder if that poll would have been the same had Italy just won in regular time or in extra time. I wonder if penalty shootouts has played, you know, a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Italy's best player quite clearly was probably Jorginho, and then maybe Chiesa right after.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument for a few of them, really. Spinazzola, as you mentioned in your team, was superb. Chiesa, the back two, the goalie. I thought where Italy disappointed and where they're probably going to look for something more heading into the 2022 World Cup was Immobile. Just I thought was very, very poor yesterday.
Yeah.
Very underwhelming. Belotti looked okay when he came on, but I certainly think that's something for Mancini to think about, maybe with Moise Kean coming back, or Ricardo Ziola at Roma, who got that really bad ACL injury and missed the tournament as a result. So I think I think that's definitely a position that Italy can improve in, but the rest of the team, as you say, were superb.
They really were. I mean, you probably could have just put like Italy as a player of the tournament, because I mean the entire team was so good, and that's what you really need in a tournament. Like, one player obviously can be really good for you, but it's so team driven, you know. And I thought that the people that came on were good, the people that started were good. Like, I was actually very impressed by Italy. But who is your player of the tournament if you just had to give it to one person? Was it Pedri? Is that who you chose? You went with?
Yeah, I would have to say Pedri. I mean, I know Spain didn't have the best start to the tournament. They were very unconvincing when you think of the narrative around the team after the first two games, heading into that last game against Slovakia. I mean, there were a lot of negative comments about this Luis Enrique side. But the one thing that shone throughout was this 18-year-old kid who was excelling in midfield. And you think, when Luis Enrique is possibly thinking about changing the system, changing the lineup, the one thing that remained was Pedri, and rightly so. And you can see why Messi loves playing with him, because you've got a kid there who just consistently wants to receive the ball, wants to take players on, wants to open up space. And we really saw Italy struggle against Pedri in that semi-final. I think that was Spain's best game of the tournament. They were very unlucky to lose. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that Pedri was really dictating play. And we mentioned the Italy team and the collective really there, with Jorginho, with Barella, with Verratti, players with a lot of experience. And Pedri just looked at home against these players. So I think for me, Pedri was probably the standout player. I'm just so excited to see what we'll be saying about him, you know, in less than 500 days now when the World Cup starts.
Is he? I think he's going to play in the Olympics too, as well.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a part of the Spain squad in the Olympics. That's what I read. So we'll get to see him a lot sooner then.
But I don't think Ronald Koeman's going to be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but the last time I read that he's going to be a part of that team, and it's a lot more of their younger players involved. And when you look at Spain, like, I think Murata was talking about how it's just so difficult for them to really live up to the Iniestas and the Xavis and what those teams are able to achieve. But when you just take the young players and you look at like Ansu Fati and Pedri, and there's some other players that are a little bit younger as well coming through the ranks, I do think Spain has something going, and it may not look like Xavi and Iniesta, but it definitely could be something quite dangerous for the future. So I'm excited to see what they cook up, you know, in the next couple of years with that team.
What about your player of the tournament?
So difficult, you know, it's just hard because I have like 5 names written down because it's hard for me to choose, but I think I'm going to go with Jorginho. I love a midfield player that people criticize and then still show why they're so good. He's just somebody in the Premier League that I just don't think his best qualities really show, because the Premier League really likes players that are more similar to Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice. And those players are quite good too. Like, they have their strengths too. But Jorginho has things like, first of all, he has limitations that he has to work through. He's not very fast. He's not very mobile, right? But the way that he connects the defense to the attack, the way he's able to speed up play and slow it down, the way he directs how, you know, everything that happens in the heart of Italy's midfield. And not only that, he does contribute defensively. He does break up play. He does get stuck in. He's just a player that I feel like is so, maybe because what he does is not quantifiable in goals and assists. You just look at him and you're just like, he's just this any other guy. He's not like Conte, like this all action CDM. But if you have Jorginho at the base of your midfield, you have a really smart, like very intelligent, technically gifted regista player. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just traditional regista, you know, and I like him quite a lot. He showed that with Chelsea once Tuchel came in. He showed it again in the Euros. Like, this guy is good. You know, he's good. Maybe not Ballon d'Or, but very, very, very good.
I'm glad you mentioned Tuchel there, because we saw in the Champions League final, for me, he was one of Chelsea's standout players. Yeah. I thought the way he controlled the play, and even before Kevin De Bruyne went off with that injury, with that double injury, really, De Bruyne had probably, for me, one of his quietest games for Man City. And a lot of that had to do with Jorginho just controlling the play, ensuring that De Bruyne was as far away from the ball as possible, and really, really just adept at, you know, understanding the space around him and, you know, as you say, spotting that danger to prevent, the attack. And obviously for Chelsea, he plays alongside Kante. That just makes his life so much easier. But I mean, equally with Italy, I thought Verratti and Barella, who doesn't get the praise that the other two do, but having those three as a trio there for Italy, I think that's the basis for Mancini's team moving forward.
Yeah, and I think a lesson in midfield balance, that a lot of people just, I feel like you don't look at it. You look at the individual players and you're like, I just want 3 world-class players in there. They don't actually have to be that. They have to have different qualities that combine well. And I thought Verratti plus Jorginho made the most sense to me. I know a lot of people were calling for Locatelli and even wanted Jorginho dropped and Locatelli in with Verratti, maybe because they just have a different narrative around them. But Jorginho has to play for Italy. He's their best midfielder. He makes the team tick. And I was just watching him and the way he would just like tell the team to slow down, tell them where to pass, and him and Verratti really slowed the game down for England and made it difficult for England to cope with, because once they slowed the game down and started dictating play, they began to grow into the game. And when you go down so easy, or not easy, but so early on in the game, it can be kind of shocking to the system. And maybe you just give up 2 or 3 more goals, but you can tell that they wanted to get that vice grip on the midfield, and they did that. And I think that that was the key to the game moving further into their direction, and them ultimately, winning the game in the end in penalties. So, yeah, I thought he's a good player, and in a couple of days I'll go back to slating him and saying he's horrendous, but right now he's very good. So, but yeah, I think that's it. This has been such a good series that we've done. I didn't know what it would feel like talking about the Euros because I don't have a horse in the race, but it's a good tournament, a lot of fun. I enjoyed.
You will in the next tournament, hopefully.
in the World Cup?
Yeah.
For the US, yeah. We're gonna keep our expectations quite low. I think the team is good, but like I don't want to get like my hopes up. But it's been so nice, like obviously sharing this time with you, David, and when Rob was here, like sharing time with him too. Just let everybody know where they can find you and what you're gonna be up to, now that the Euros are over.
Well, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at David Gerges 86. And yeah, next up for us is the Olympics, really. So not a long break before the Olympics starts in Tokyo. So looking forward to that. Sad that it is now, closed off because of the current situation. Not a surprise, but yeah, the sport keeps coming, really, and we'll have a few of those bright players from the Euros at the Olympics now.
Yeah, it is nonstop. So, well, that's it from me. My name is Jessica. You can find me on Twitter at @itchjessino. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the WeShow Football YouTube channel. And we hope to see you all again soon in the upcoming season. Bye, everyone.
Bye.